Hey everybody, Corey here. Today we're talking about U squared by Price Pritchett, the high velocity formula for multiplying your personal effectiveness in quantum leaps. And today we're going to be talking about why you should quit trying harder if you want to get bigger, better quantum leaps, bigger results in your life. So he says, quantum leaps cannot be achieved through incremental steps or through more of the same. You've got to shift gears. You have to follow new patterns of thought and action. The rules of what worked and what doesn't work change. The rules of what work and what doesn't work change when you're trying to make a move from normal performance to U squared. Stop and think about it. Here's the way it goes. More of the same usually just gives us more of the same. Of course, if that's mainly what you're after, fine. Try a little harder and get a little bigger payoff. Try a lot harder and you can expect a lot better results, right? Well, possibly, but it's definitely not a sure thing. So sooner or later, you're going to reach a point where you can't try any harder. It may be that your spirit flags or that your physical and mental resources are stretched to the limit. And often, well before you come to that set of circumstances, you reach the point of diminishing return. Trying harder and harder starts to produce less and less. Sometimes, in fact, intensifying your efforts produces nothing except bigger problems. So as we try harder and harder, with the same methods that we're currently using, the gains that we're going to get from that are diminished. They become proportionally smaller and smaller, and we eventually reach a point where we can't try any harder and we can't get any bigger gains. What he's saying here is that you have to follow patterns of new patterns of thought and action. And it's our thoughts that control our actions. 96 to 98% of our behavior is habitual, and it's controlled by a mental program. So it's controlled by our thoughts through habitual thinking. So in order to change habitual behavior, we need to change habitual thinking, and it's our behavior that creates our results. When we think along the same lines, we're always going to get the same outcome. When we do the same thing, it's Einstein said, didn't he, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So if we want more of the same, then trying a little bit harder is going to give us a little bit more of the same. But if we want to make a quantum jump, a quantum leap in results, then we have to follow new patterns of thought and action. The rules of what works and what doesn't always change when you're trying to make a move from normal performance to U squared. So sooner or later, you're going to reach a point where you can't try any harder. And he's saying that it may be that your spirit flags or that your physical and mental resources are stretched to the limit. And often, well before you come to that set of circumstances, you reach the point of diminished returns. Trying harder starts to produce less and less. And in fact, if the current course of action is causing you problems, by trying harder, it's going to just cause you more problems, which is exactly the opposite of what we're trying to achieve with this formula. As a case in point, go back to the story of the fly. The little insect could have turned away from the window 180 degrees and followed the path of least resistance as it flew to the open door. A quantum leap to freedom. So in the first page of this book, he talks about watching a fly smashing itself against a window pane trying to escape. And each time it flies into the window pane, it turns around and tries again. And he says the fly's going to die in the window pane. What he didn't realize was the fly never realized that if it had done a 180-degree turn, there was an open door and the fly could have just flown a couple of meters to the door to freedom. So the point he's making there is that sometimes we get stuck in certain ideas, certain behavioral patterns, and we just think that trying harder is going to be the solution to creating a breakthrough. And often it's a one-way ticket to failure. in the instance, in the example of the fly could have just turned around and easily and effortlessly created the result that it wanted. But what got it stuck in that frame of thinking that it only had the one option to try and fly through a glass window pane. So he says, 10 seconds of effortless flight would have produced total success, while the hours of frustration and panic spent beating its wings against the glass were destined to end fruitlessly in death on the dusty windowsill. He says, now, this is not an argument against self-discipline or persistence. Those are true virtues. Self-discipline and persistence are true virtues. Over a lifetime, they can make a powerful contribution to success and achievement. They are fundamental to the development of your talents. It's extremely important to apply yourself diligently, and sometimes staying power is what delivers the big win. But ordinarily, you will find that trying harder produces only incremental gains and not quantum leaps. Also, keep in mind that trying harder and even a lot harder sometimes offers little more than a straight path to burnout. Attempting to succeed through more of the same, being resolute and relying on committed effort can blind you to better pathways. If you want to make a quantum leap, quit thinking about trying harder. More effort is not the answer. So I've been reading Deepak Chopra, The 7 Spiritual Laws, and last night I was looking at the law of least resistance. And to me, the two here are kind of related in that the act of continually just trying harder and just pushing creates resistance, and it's going to give you more of the same, and sometimes it's going to give you more of what you don't want. More often than not, the solution lies, the quantum leap that we're looking to achieve lies in a completely different train of thought, in releasing of the resistance through trying harder and allowing ourselves to be paradoxical. As he said in the previous chapter in our behavior, he says quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior. If you want to accelerate your rate of achievement rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors, new attitudes. So I teach a program called Thinking into Results, which is a Bob Proctor program. Proctor Gallagher, it was written by Sandy Gallagher and Bob Proctor. And in that program, it's about creating, a big part of that program is about creating new ideas that are going to allow you to create massive exponential gains in your life. And Bob Proctor says that everything that we ever need to get what we want is already present, 100% ever present in everything. And the answer is through an expansion of awareness. So if we don't know, when we don't know how to get from A to where we want to go, B, C, or D, then the issue is a lack of understanding in the path that we need to take. And the solution is through creating greater awareness in what we can do to achieve the results that we want. And trying harder is not the solution to doing that. He's saying here in, he makes a really good point here, talking about, let me just, bear with me. Persistence, and he says this is not an argument against self-discipline or persistence. Those are true virtues. We're not saying here, he's not saying that you should stop trying. He's saying that you should stop being the fly and flying against the windowsill when there is potentially and more than likely a much more efficient, less resistant way of short tracking your route to success. So, and as we go through this book, we're going to see that he talks about all the different ideas of how we can actually do that, how we can create this paradoxical behavior, how we can change these behavioral patterns that are going to give us the 180-degree U-turn that the fly needed to fly to freedom, that's going to give us the U-turn to release the resistance and create the paradoxical behavior and new habitual behavioral patterns that are going to allow us to also fly to freedom and create the multiply the success of our results. So that's the end of that one. I don't want to keep you here too long, but I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel. There's going to be loads of cool stuff coming up, and these videos will get better and better, and it'll be well worth staying updated. Thanks. Talk to you later.